Welcome back, folks. It's another great day here on Valliant Renegade. Make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Share this sucker out on the social medias. And do leave a comment before you head out today. Because this is where Hollywood comes to get put through the business and financial lens of reality. It's time. Renegade Online. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another show here. It's been a while, but we are back Thursday night for the week, where Ron Coleman and I take down the news here. And, well, he's here. How you doing?
It's been a while, couple of weeks, man.
I know. You had so much going on. You had a wonderful holiday with your family last week, a very full house. The week before I was traveling. And
it became even fuller. I had another grandchild.
Oh, that's right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's number 47 now.
Not quite there yet, but we're thank God, we're holding up our end on the the fertility crisis. Y'all are doing replacement theory without bringing in illegals. Well, listen, we're if you're not having babies, we will replace you.
That's it. There we go. Oh man, we've got a number of things to talk about tonight, but two things in particular I know for sure. We have one hell of a case that is being litigated currently before the Supreme Court of the United States that I had a feeling that you perhaps may just have a few thoughts on. This one is going to be, I think, potentially whatever decision is made, and we all hope it's the right one, maybe some pun intended. But, I mean, this is going to have incredible impact, or the potential to have incredible impact on the political landscape of the United States. And we're gonna talk about that tonight, as well as we've got you going to a No Kings rally on Saturday, Ron? You gonna?
Well, Saturdays are not rally days for me, but I don't think any days are No Kings rally days for me.
Ah, shucks. Well, I thought about going out to one, and I'm sure there'll be one down here in New Orleans, and I'm like, you know what? Nah. I think it'd be fun to just sit there and watch all the very interesting people go by. I had saved a number of videos this week, particularly from our friends up in Portland, Oregon, which allegedly is a perfectly normal city. Yet video evidence seems this week to suggest otherwise. And the videos are such that I can't even play them on YouTube because my channel would be struck. It tends to happen when you have a cavalcade of let's say, some very misshapen land whales with zero clothing on, strolling down the street on skateboards and scooters in protest.
But isn't that what all protests are like these days? I mean, isn't that the same personnel for all these things, pretty much?
Ron, the only protest I saw was some of their tits trying to protest gravity. I'm telling you, man, this is even if it wasn't something that would be a YouTube critical offense, I'd be leery about playing it because, I give my audience enough stuff to go ew at sometimes, but that might be a bridge too far. I might lose them all if I played some of that. So, thank you all for being here. We've got about 80 of you watching on my channel here on YouTube, and I know we got a bunch more out there on Ron's. We've got about 500 watching in total here between X and YouTube as we get started. So thank you all for being here. So, Ron, I know you've probably been keeping up with this, and there have been a number of there's there have been some really, really interesting quotes that have come out of, I'd say, some of the justices, but one in particular regarding this case. And I have a few of them saved. I really wish we would have a day where we'd have cameras in there, because there were moments that I really would have loved to have had a 4K camera on constant close-up of Clarence Thomas's face with some of the statements that were being made in there. But just to give everybody a fill-in here, Supreme Court conservatives appear open to weakening the Voting Rights Act in Louisiana congressional map case. And this is what we want to kind of hit first here, Ron, and I know you're probably familiar with this story, obviously, and many of our audience members may be. Matter of fact, let me do this real quickly. We had some early super chats come in. Want to thank these folks. Marcus Quintus for $10 gifted 10, quote, Renegade Nation citizen memberships. Suck it, Araxis. This is an ongoing joke now where our moderators and channel fans are creating new membership names that we don't have yet for Renegade Nation for channel memberships, which I've been very entertained the last couple of shows with this. Thank you, Marcus. Packing says for 5, the government shut down. Didn't notice. Packing Protons donates 5 McDonald's employee power level memberships. Thank you. Thank you, Packing. Do they all come with the quarter pounder with cheese special?
Tennessee, thank you so much.
Yes. Tennessee Tornado for $20 says he gifted a Coleman Comrade membership. See? So again, they're all just going to make up the names. And then Packing says for 5, WPLJ had a segment called Shot Collar Trivia. Maybe Valliant and Jonas should get a game going to stand with Kaya or Kaya. Is that Hassan's dog? Is that the name of his dog? I didn't know. I'm guessing that has to be Shot Collar Trivia. Marcus for 5, order yourself a Make Disney Great Again t-shirt from the VR merch shop. And there's the link. It's over on Mixed Tees, MixedTees, mixedtees.com. Just search Valiant Renegade up there. It'll take you to the page. Thank you, Marcus. And Hillis for 5. Yes, the No Kings protest against England, right? Right? Yes! Araxis for 5. Marcus Quintus, it's Araxis. At least get my name right when you tell me to suck it. Hey, Ron, more pro bono charity work with VR again, you saint.
I'm a man of the people. And
there we go.
And who is more of a people?
I'm people. Sometimes.
People who need people.
Oh, here we go. Are you going to go through the whole thing?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Come on, Barbara. All right.
The luckiest people.
Perfect. Marcus for 5. Isn't the No Kings protesters nothing but a bunch of queens? Just saying. You have a point. You may have a point. All right, let's get into these stories. And you know what I thought, Ron, before we get into the heavy discussion, because I want to turn this over to you for some legal thoughts. I thought what might be a good idea to kind of set everything up for the audience is to give them maybe something they haven't really seen yet. I've got 2 news reports here from New Orleans. And for the people that may not know, this case that's before the Supreme Court right now, challenging black congressional districts. And what we mean by that is these are districts that are quite literally and openly gerrymandered to elect a black member of Congress. And this has been ongoing for a while. This is something that was, codified into statute years ago, and you have to do this and that. And I think, Ron, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't some of this go back all the way to like the Reconstruction era? I know there was something where the Department of Justice had some authority over congressional district maps in the southern states following the rebellion and then into Reconstruction.
I have no, I don't think the Department of Justice did. What really happened, as far as I understand it,
Mhm.
and I was very young at the time, was uh, after the civil rights related disturbances the prevention of blacks voting, not during Reconstruction, but 100 years later,
Mhm.
the Johnson administration and the Democrats in Congress passed the voting rights law.
Mhm.
And under that law, the as interpreted by the Supreme Court, amazingly, not so amazingly, because that's the kind of sloppy work that they were doing in those days, the court said that it was constitutional to enforce this law, which required, not just permitted, but required
Mhm.
the creation of minority majority voting congressional districts. In other words, in order to make sure that black voting rights were not diluted
Mhm.
by democracy,
Right.
by not being in the majority, that there would be blacks elected to national offices, to Congress in particular. They were required to permit this really preposterous gerrymandering
Mhm.
to make sure that even in an area where perhaps blacks were 30% of the overall population, which would be much higher than the national average,
Mhm.
instead of having one district where there would never be a black candidate, there might be two districts that would be majority black
Mhm.
by gerrymandering, and one that might be white.
Mhm.
And the result has been that over the last, well, the better part of my lifetime and
Yeah,
all of
many
yours,
decades now. Yeah.
there has been a cushion of at least 20 Democratic
Yeah.
seats in the House of Representatives, which has been of historic significance considering how many close votes and close elections there have been.
And many of them
And
in southern states.
many of them in southern states where there would, and someone made a really good point that by doing this, what they actually did was removed the influence of black votes from the districts that were not carved out to
Mhm.
be black districts. Black votes that could have been swing votes, that could have been vote deciders.
Yep.
And amazingly, I'm sure this is one of the things that you want to talk about.
Mhm.
Yesterday, Justice Sotomayor said, well, isn't it true that this has to happen? Because if it doesn't, there will be, we know that black Democrats, that white Democrats won't vote for black Democratic candidates.
Yeah, I think I have that. Was that Sotomayor or was it
Yeah,
Ketanji
no,
Brown?
that was Sotomayor
Sotomayor. Okay,
because
I might
she
have that clip,
because
that
she's
audio clip.
the
Yeah.
really stupid one. I mean, that's stupid. That's just plain stupid. And I'm going to say it because I really don't think she's going to watch our stream, Valliant.
No. No.
It
We're gonna
is
get. I
I
have
mean,
these clips. We're gonna play them later because they're gold mines. I
yeah.
mean, it's just let me tell you what, folks. You're gonna hear a lot of things tonight from some of the highest ranking Democrats that are out there, and that includes folks politically that are on the Supreme Court, where they're at this point when they're having to argue this case. They, in order to defend it, they have nowhere else to go but to say the quiet part out loud, and it's stunning. And this is why I made the comment earlier. I would love to just have a constant close-up camera on Justice Thomas's face the entire time because his reactions to these things have got to be epic. Like I imagine, well, I'll go into it later. Let me play this first. So again, this case comes from New Orleans. So I have two news clips here from two of the major New Orleans stations. One, CBS WWL TV in New Orleans. The other one is from Fox 8. And I kind of want you to get, because I think both news reports here, they're about 3 to 4 minutes long each. Both news reports actually give you kind of a good, they have varying styles to them, and some of the folks. So the point is here, this all boils down to what happened in Louisiana, my hometown here in New Orleans, to where, we've always had in New Orleans, or at least for, like Ron said, the better part of our lifetimes, a majority black congressional district that has been engineered to be exactly that. Now, to be fair, Orleans Parish itself, the city of New Orleans, with a population of a little shy, or I think right around 400,000 in the parish itself, okay, which is New Orleans proper, not including the suburban areas around it or the other adjacent townships and whatnot that are part of the New Orleans media market or the metropolitan area. But New Orleans itself, the voting population in New Orleans, they have a congressional district there that is roughly 65 to 70% black. That's New Orleans, okay? It's much like a lot of other major deep blue Democrat major cities in the country, okay? So that's number one, okay? Now, the issue was they wanted Louisiana to carve out another one of these things because, about 80 miles down the road, you've got East Baton Rouge Parish, which is, higher than national average, densely populated with more black folks than the average demographics would be elsewhere. So they were trying to carve in a second district there that would be a majority black district. Basically, instead of just having the one that would snake around New Orleans, you'd wanted to add a second one, okay? And this is where this litigation stemmed from. So Here's the reporting from today, or yesterday, I should say. I'm just going to run through this, and then we'll talk about this clip, and then we'll go to the one from Fox. This one's about 4 minutes.
The conservative majority U.S. Supreme Court saying.
And real quick, the sound, yes, it's not me. It's the way this was recorded. You're going to get right channel only and then left channel only. It's just the way this was loaded to YouTube by WWL, just as a heads up.
The conservative majority U.S. Supreme Court signaled it may weaken or do away with a key section of the longstanding Voting Rights Act.
Today, the High Court heard arguments in a Louisiana case trying to strike down the state's second black majority congressional district. Now, Paul Murphy joining us from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in downtown New Orleans.
Just real quick, I just want to show you. See that red line right there? That's basically what we call the car door district. Right? This is what they're proposing. District 6, you see it right there in green, okay? And it starts there with a little clip of East Baton Rouge, which is the state capital, and then runs up. We call it a car door district, at least in the South, Ron. I don't know if y'all call it up that where y'all are at, but we call it car door because you could get on the highway, open your car doors, drive straight down the highway, and hit all the voters as you go along, right? Because it's just a line. The way they do this kind of thing. It's a thin, narrow, little snaky district. And it's literally gerrymandered to do exactly what they're trying to do here. So just putting this map in context for everybody to understand, right? And you can see Orleans down here. You can see my cursor right there where I'm circling. Orleans Parish, that's New Orleans right there, okay? Congressional District 1 right there, where that one is, St. Bernard, St. Tammany, southern half of Tangipahoa, Livingston, and elsewhere. That's Steve Scalise. Okay, that's my district. I've known Steve since long before. I've known Steve Scalise since he was a YR. Okay, that's Steve Scalise's district. Okay, the House Majority Whip. And then 2 is the New Orleans District. 6, what they're trying to create. This is the new map, just to put everything in perspective for everybody. All right, here we go.
Break down the state's second black majority congressional district. Now, Paul Murphy joining us from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in downtown New Orleans tonight with the latest. Paul?
Katie Shuri's, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals had directed the state of Louisiana to create new maps that included that new second majority minority congressional district by January 2024. The state legislature redrew the congressional boundaries, which have since been the target of legal challenges all the way up to the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court heard 2.5 hours of arguments in the Louisiana congressional redistricting case, Louisiana versus Calais. At issue, whether creating a second majority minority district violated the U.S. Constitution. The outcome of the case could determine the future of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, a key protection against racial discrimination in voting.
No,
NAACP
no, it is
legal
actually
defense
not a
fund
key
attorney
protection
Janai
against
Wilson
racial
warned that
discrimination in
eliminating
voting.
the provision
It requires racial discrimination in voting.
Yes, exactly, and that's exactly what we're going to get to. And again, this is why I wanted you to hear. Again, this is the New Orleans media market. This is the New Orleans.
But this
CBS
is it's gonna be for
yeah.
almost any city, especially
Yeah.
any black city.
Right. No, I get that, and that's what they're going for here. That's why I wanted to play these, because I figured nobody had seen these yet.
could have widespread consequences.
My opponent's late-breaking and
Okay, Janai Nelson. Ron, you want to let the audience know who this is?
Who this is, other than the lawyer for the NAACP? Is she
Right,
something special?
No. Just that she is the attorney, or one of the attorneys, that is arguing to defend this the discriminatory voting practices here when it comes to drawing congressional districts.
That's right. And to think of what the NAACP is really a passe organization to a large extent now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But to the extent that it exists at all anymore,
Yeah.
it really needs those seats.
Yes. Yes. That's why the NAACP, I almost said the NCAA. The NAACP is there, is because if they lose 20 seats, that's a money machine for them. That's going to hit them in the financial pocketbook.
recordless facial and as-applied challenges seek a staggering reversal of
I'm going to back it up so we can hear the whole quote. Here we go. Sorry about that.
my opponent's late-breaking and recordless facial and as-applied challenges seek a staggering reversal of precedent that would throw maps across the country into chaos.
Lower
Oh no, chaos.
Oh no! Here's the thing, though, and I'm gonna have you address this after we go through these two clips, because I hate this concept where court precedent. Well, even though precedent is dead ass wrong, like the demand that courts continue to respect precedent, even though they've screwed it up previously, instead of fixing their mistakes. I can't stand this idea, but we'll get there.
courts found Louisiana's previous single-majority black congressional map likely violated the Voting Rights Act by diluting the voting power of black residents, who make up about 1/3 of the state's population. State Solicitor General Benjamin Aguinagua
God bless him, but that is like a DMV photo they got of him. I just felt so bad.
argued the Constitution does not tolerate government-mandated racial balancing.
It requires
Okay, so this is our Solicitor General, not the Attorney General, not Kim Murrell. This is our Solicitor General who is making oral arguments in the case today.
striking enough members of the majority race to sufficiently diminish their voting strength. And it requires drawing in enough members of a minority race to sufficiently augment their voting strength.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh questioned attorneys about whether it's time to end the use of race-based districts.
This court's cases in a variety of contexts have said that race-based remedies are permissible for a period of time, sometimes for a long period of time, decades in some cases, but that they should not be indefinite and should have an endpoint.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson disagreed.
Oh, we're gonna have so many clips of this chick. Just wait.
Doesn't need a time limit because it's not doing any work other than just pointing us to the direction of where we might need to do something.
Moving on.
Supreme Court could return a decision by the end of the year.
Whatever they do, we hope that it will result in better clarity and better.
Okay, so this is Kim. This is our newly elected as of 2023 Attorney General. Previously, Jeff Landry was the Attorney General here in Louisiana. Jeff Landry, of course, is now the governor of Louisiana.
instructions for legislatures.
We feel very confident that the law is absolutely on our side.
Why? Why do you feel that?
I don't know. Because reasons, man.
Well,
It's
she
right up
might
there.
be right. She might be right in the sense that that does seem to be what the law says.
The statute is, but is the Constitution.
But it might not be constitutional.
Yeah.
Which is the law of the law.
Yeah. One is superior to the other.
The court discussions and fight over Louisiana's congressional districts has now lasted about 3 years. We're live in downtown New Orleans. Paul Murphy, WWL, Louisiana.
Oh, Paul, we know that second majority minority district extends from Baton Rouge to Shreveport, that is now represented by Democratic Representative Cleo Fields. How are state...
And let me tell you right there, that's why this is such a, pardon my French, bitch fest here in Louisiana. Cleo Fields. I'm not going to go down the long history of who Cleo Fields is. For those of you out there, and I know there's some of you in this audience that are from Louisiana, and I know every time you hear the name Cleo Fields, you probably have to reflexively swallow vomit back in. It is what it is. I mean, Cleo Fields goes back into the early to mid 1990s when he was running against a man who became governor by the name of Mike Foster. I remember this vividly. I mean, I was in high school. I was very involved in politics from the time I was 13. And, Cleo's game hasn't changed much in all the decades he's been in politics. I'll just say this. Cleo Fields really does not care much for white people unless they're writing him checks. And it's well known here in Louisiana. So this is what, this is a district that Cleo would want to acquire and then hang on to basically until he's in the grave. That's
the thing. These districts, once someone's voted in, I mean, you look at the creepiest members of Congress. They come out of these districts.
Yeah, like Rosa DeLario, the purple-haired 80-year-old woman that loves to run around and do TikTok videos like her. She's nuts. All right, let's finish this
leaders
one up.
Reacting to this potential change in Louisiana's congressional maps, and if it is change, are they signaling they will appeal?
Well, I think a lot of the state leaders expected the Supreme Court to render a decision on this case earlier before the High Court ordered a re-argument in the case, which happened today. In fact, the lawmakers had put some dates on the calendar for a potential special session for drawing new congressional boundaries, and obviously that special session is off for now.
Okay, so what he's talking about is Louisiana was hoping to have this resolved, and the governor had ordered a special session of the legislature so that as soon as this case would have been adjudicated, hopefully in, the favor of the Constitution in this case, meaning no more drawing maps just to get black people elected to Congress. We can't use racial issues to determine voting patterns. That session is now suspended. And just so everybody can see there, that Fifth Circuit, you'll hear probably Ron talk about that one a lot. Traditionally, it's been a pretty conservative circuit. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, that is in New Orleans. That is downtown New Orleans right there. So,
I mean, it sits in several places, and one of them is in New Orleans. By the way, you see the name of the courthouse there. It's one of the great judicial names.
Yes, John Minor.
Minor Wisdom.
Yeah.
John Minor Wisdom. He's a smart judge, but he's not a major wise man. He's a minor.
Indeed. Now, there's one other bit I want to play that I thought gives a little bit different perspective, because this clip from Fox 8 in New Orleans, and the reason I want to play too is that gives you kind of a lot of the nitty-gritty and the facts. But this next one here, we've actually got interviews in it with certain members of Congress, former members of Congress that have sat these districts, like Troy Carter and whatnot. And this is going to give you a little bit more pepper when it comes to some of the anger at the people looking at what may be about to happen here if the Supreme Court decision goes in a certain direction that won't be in their favor.
Court watchers, including a local constitutional law professor, think the U.S. Supreme Court may limit race-based electoral districts after hearing a Louisiana case today.
Sabrina Wilson reports such a ruling would impact more than Louisiana's majority black congressional districts.
The justices heard a case that centers around Louisiana's congressional map. That map, signed into law by Governor Landry in 2024, created a second majority black congressional district in the state.
And I'll say this, Governor Landry didn't exactly have an option here because of the way the laws are. People are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe like one of the most conservative Republican governors in the country did it." I'm like, didn't really have an option. That is why, Ron, that's why this is in court right now, right?
That's right. I mean, it is really this law is literally a negation of democracy.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
It does look like there are at least 3 solid votes in favor of eliminating race as a factor in redistricting. From Justices Thomas, Gorsuch, and Alito.
During the hearing, Louisiana's Solicitor General argued against.
And I will say, I think maybe based on some of those comments and questions that we heard during oral arguments, the clips that we heard earlier from Brett Kavanaugh, probably add 4 right there.
Ben Aguinaga, la Solicitor General.
Yes, of Louisiana.
Okay. Does he spell his name with a tilde in like your local press? Like in the
I don't know. He's the one that
That's not an American letter, the Enya.
Yeah,
like,
no. No, he's Hispanic. He's the one that we made the comment earlier about. That I'm sorry for him because he had that looked like a DMV photo that they used on the news, the other channel that we looked at earlier. That's him.
The state's redrawn map.
Race-based redistricting is fundamentally contrary to our Constitution.
A group of non-black voters.
So if you didn't know what political persuasion that he was, you just found out. Race-based districting has no, whatever he said, balance against the Constitution. It does. So I mean,
that sounds to me like a strange thing for Alito to say. I think he was probably putting forth an argument that someone has made. In other words, I don't think Alito was, because in oral argument, you wouldn't expect the Supreme Court justices to make an assertion like that, but he might put it in a hypothetical. In other words,
no, that wasn't Alito that was saying that. That's this guy. That's Ben Aguinaga. That's our Solicitor General who was making that statement, I believe.
Are you sure?
Let me back it up. I might be wrong.
The Solicitor General argued against the state's
the Solicitor General argued
redrawn map.
Race-based redistricting is fundamentally contrary to our Constitution.
So my assumption was that was his statement to the court. Race-based distribution is fundamentally
right. Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
A group of non-black voters filed suit against the map, saying race was too much of a factor in the drawing of boundary lines. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act prohibits voting practices that discriminate on the basis of race or color. Voting rights advocates say if the court sides with the plaintiffs, the VRA will be gutted.
Were Section 2 to cease to operate in the way that you just described to prevent vote dilution in districting, what could happen? What would the results on the ground be?
That's a softball.
Right. And it's Kagan, of course, Ron. She's deliberately throwing a softball on this one.
Yeah, right. Sure.
For this one. She wants this answer because this is what we talked about earlier. This is what I wanted you to address because it's going to get into this issue of, the court has to be careful, regardless of what's right or wrong, is the subtext of this, to not rock the boat too hard, right? Even though a practice may be completely running afoul of the Constitution or the rule of law. We as the court want to be a little cautious because we don't want to upset the apple cart of society. And I feel like this question is going right to that. Like to give them an excuse as to, well, even though you think this might be right, if we do this, it's going to be a political nuke, right?
I think the results would be pretty catastrophic if we take Louisiana as one example.
It's gonna be catastrophic. You know, that's exactly the answer that Elena Kagan was looking for. I mean, this is like what the first day of law school rule, Ron, right? Never ask a question that you don't already know the answer to, and I think Kagan was going right for this.
Votes dilution in districting. What could happen? What would the results on the ground be?
What can happen?
I think the results would be pretty catastrophic if we take Louisiana as one example. Every congressional member who is black was elected from a VRA opportunity district.
I'm asking.
Exactly.
Oh, shit. Again, that's what I said. The only defense for these folks is to start saying the quiet part out loud. That this is one of the oldest and still active and frankly biggest examples of DEI in American history. This is diversity, equity, and inclusion, the original version of it.
I mean,
and
imagine if you take away the race part. What you're saying is politicians in my party would not get elected if we didn't fix this for them.
Right.
Well, we can't support that. That's out of the question. No, but it's because they're black. Oh, that makes it okay. No.
Yeah. It's truly amazing, and this is just scratching the surface.
What you think the time limit on that should be, or there really shouldn't be a time limit? I think you might be saying there shouldn't be a time limit unless Congress chooses one.
I am saying that.
Louisiana Congressman Cleo Fields and Troy Carter, both Democrats, were elected from majority African-American districts, but depending...
And it's so funny. Cleo has put on... I mean, we all get older, we put on the weight, but it's so funny. If you go back and find pictures from when Cleo first got on the scene, geez and Pete's like almost 35 years ago now. Dude, he was a little 90-pound scrawny nothing, dude.
Many such cases.
I didn't even look. When I saw this, I'm like, that can't be Cleo, man. There's no way. But I was like,
on
shocked.
how the high court rules, their seats could be in jeopardy. Dane Cialino is a Loyola constitutional law professor.
That's certainly true, because if the intentional use of race is found by a majority of the court to violate either the 14th or 15th Amendments or both, then we're in a new world.
Carter says the impact would go beyond them.
The reality is, if you take...
Okay, so just for everybody's edification, Troy Carter, Democrat, Louisiana. Troy Carter, long-serving member of Congress from that, that deliberately black New Orleans congressional district, okay?
There you go.
And just so everybody knows from what perspective this man is speaking.
Take away Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, it puts some, depending on where you look, anywhere from 20 to 30 seats at risk.
Nope, that's the quiet part out loud.
I might have to get a real job.
I might have to. I mean, so if what's terrifying us, and the reason we're fighting this is because we know that these seats have been gerrymandered. And we know that without this gerrymandering, that the House of Representatives would be a lot more Republican, and Democrats would have a much rougher time ever seeing a majority again. But we need these absolutely unconstitutionally, racially gerrymandered districts in order to maintain power. Your Honor, it's not fair. Why? Because we can't win any other way. It's like this is literally where we are. And They're at the point now where they can't hide it.
But those are those are the softball questions. Isn't it true? What'll happen? Oh, it'll be catastrophic. That sounds like a really kind of a subjective answer.
Right.
Has there ever been, in other words, what she's saying to that lady is, what will happen if your side loses? Will it be catastrophic? Has there ever been anyone who would not answer that? What would happen if your side loses? It would be catastrophic. That's not really a useful answer.
Yeah. Well, they dive in more, and that's why I wanted to play these first, because I thought like these were good setup clips, because then we're going to start seeing what justices on the bench that are overseeing this case, like Ketanji Brown Jackson, are saying to try to defend this, and the paint is really coming off, really coming off here.
I mean, I think there's a really, like, of all the oral arguments of this year. I mean, I don't mean this term, but this year, I don't think anyone listening to this thought there was any chance that the government, that the Supreme Court was going to uphold this law.
Yeah, no. And again, best part was when you had a Supreme Court justice compare black people to disabled people in wheelchairs. We're getting there. It's just, it's unbelievable.
Of losing representation based on the Voting Rights Act and the rule of law that it's applied. This will impact state legislatures. It will impact school board members.
Louisiana.
And let me tell you something. Troy Carter just let that cat out the bag that a lot of people aren't considering either. What he just said, and I cannot key in on this enough, this is not something that is just going to impact at the federal level in the House of Representatives, okay? Because a lot of local districts, voting districts, are drawn based on the congressional map. And he just said there's going to be a lot of local things that are going to shift, like school board members and everything else because of this. And again, it's not just what they're going to lose at the top line, right? It's what they're going to hemorrhage at the state level, the local level, the municipal level, right? We talked years ago, some of the biggest wipeouts that Democrats had weren't at the federal level. They were at the state level. They were in state legislatures. They were in, depending on where you are, they might call them council members or aldermen or so on and so forth. But those people that run a parish, we call them parishes here in Louisiana, counties everywhere else in the other 49 states. There was a big Democrat wipeout there too. Our friend Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports, right, talked about in 2024 how there was this seismic shift that was almost across the entire board in the United States that moved roughly 5 points to the right. Or I should do it because StreamYard has me backwards. 5 points to the right. I'm pointing left. It looks right on camera. The point is that the Democrats know, and this is what they're terrified of right now, is that this is not just going to impact, this is not just going to be potentially a significant seismic gravitational shift at the House of Representatives level on the federal side of things. But this is going to shift things even more to Republicans' favor, potentially. Pardon me. Potentially, even at the local levels, and that's the big one. Yeah. Oh, look who's out there. Potentially criminal out there in the audience for 2. He says total redistricting death. Also, hey Ron.
Hey now.
So let's wrap this little clip up, and then we're going to get on to some of these other bits and pieces.
And Attorney General Liz Murrill, who initially defended the map, changed her stance, and she was in court for the hearing.
We've been mired in litigation over our congressional maps, not just during this decade, but since the 1990s. So, we think the court needs to clarify its own rulings.
Congressman Carter and voting rights advocates say the Voting Rights Act is still needed. Carter says if the court decimates it, there will be pressure on Congress to pass new laws.
Okay, and there's that last part. That's why I wanted to play that. Ron, Okay, so the point of this to me, my question to you is, the Supreme Court says, no, you can't draw a congressional map. You can't make congressional districts or do anything of that matter based on the color of somebody's skin. What laws, what new statute could Congress pass to try to do an end run around a ruling like this?
Nothing.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
I was like, well, it's going to put pressure on Congress to pass new laws.
Well, first of all, Congress isn't going to pass those laws because it's going to be full of us.
Yeah.
It would also have to be veto proof. It's just not happening.
Yeah. And I mean, when you really look at it like this and you say like the Democrats could lose 20 seats, right? And those 20 seats could become Republican seats. What people don't realize is how the math works. That's actually a 40 swing, meaning that if they lose 20 seats and the Republicans pick up those 20 seats, that's a 40 swing from where it is now. It's not 20, it's actually 40. You know, it's like when you really look at it, how that would work. So if, the Republicans, let's say, for example, have 220 seats now, and the Democrats have 200, just to make the math easy. And the Democrats are going to lose 20 majority black districts. And those majority black districts shift into just kind of a more homogenous voting, just regular non-gerrymandered district. And all of a sudden, let's say all of them become Republican. Well, that means that the Democrats would go from 200 seats to 180, and the Republicans would go from 220 to 240. Big old swing, right?
Wow. Huh?
And that's what they're really terrified of, because that's one of the things that has kept Democrats in power for so long. And we've talked about this from a cultural standpoint on the main Valliant Renegade channel now for 5 years that I've been on YouTube. And that is to say that, look, the left isn't as big as it wants to pretend that it is. It is augmented. It is artificially inflated by control of the legacy media and entertainment world and all this kind of stuff. We talk about Disney, obviously for many, many years, how bad they've been with it. And then you wonder why, anytime the left says they want to actually boycott something, basically you see no impact from it at all. Like, the left, we talked about this recently just kind of as a review because the numbers came up again. The left wanted to throw down, they pretended like they were going to massively boycott a video game because J.K. Rowling was affiliated with it, Hogwarts Legacy.
Right.
And online, on Twitter, it looked like that there was this massive, giant constituency that was going to boycott this game, and this game was going to be crashed because she didn't bow down to the LGBTQ, specifically the radical trans agenda. Hogwarts Legacy went on to become one of the biggest selling video games of all time. Right now, somewhere between 35 and 40 million copies of that game have sold. It is one of the biggest, most successful video games ever because it was a great game. And the boycott didn't happen. Now, when the right decides to boycott stuff, you get Target getting their stock price crushed. You get Bud Light, exactly, with Dylan Mulvaney losing 30% of their sales almost overnight. When the right boycotts, it is painful. And this is the point. A lot of the congressional power, I feel like, Ron, for Democrats has been just as much of a bunch of red herrings and gaslighting because of this absolutely manipulated congressional districting system that they have been able to enjoy now for years. And somebody is about to just knock the polish off the turd, is what it looks like. And they ain't all in for it.
And I don't think any of us was really realized that this was percolating, that this was so close to happening. This is such a freaking game changer.
Dude, this is, and let me ask you this, Ron, while we're on the topic, because then I want to get to some of the particular quotes here from some of the justices and some of the stuff that's coming out, because there's a lot of stuff to laugh at here. There is discussion Like we think as lay people that don't know the law as well as people like you do and Sean out there in the audience, potentially criminal. We think of when the Supreme Court goes out there and they take a case, they hear oral arguments, and like right now, it's October, man. We're about to have the World Series, and the Supreme Court isn't going to drop a verdict on this until June, when we get into actual verdict season for the Supreme Court. The problem with that is that states like Louisiana, and we see other ones out there, they are ready to push the button and go. We've heard North Carolina, Indiana, North Carolina, there are so many states out there that are ready to push the FU button on congressional districting. Like, we're tired of this shit. What is the chances that the Supreme Court delivers, I guess for lack, I'm sure there's a legal term, but more of an emergency verdict? We ain't going to wait till June, because there's no way that states can turn around, and if the Supreme Court rules in the favor of we're not going to have, ethnically or racially charged districts anymore because it's unconstitutional, there's no way they can fix that between June and October of next year for that midterm election. What's the chances we hear of something sooner?
I've got no freaking idea.
But is there precedent for the Supreme Court to deliver verdicts earlier than usual?
Well, not verdicts. Verdicts are for juries.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rulings, pardon me. Okay.
To deliver them, in other words, sooner than they normally would in order to, they're certainly not going to affect this election, no matter what.
You're talking about the 2026 election?
No, 2026 midterms. Right. No.
Yeah, a year from now.
I believe that it will. No, I believe that it will.
Okay, so this is my point, is that so that do you think that there is a possibility that instead of the Supreme Court waiting to make its ruling and issuing it like we usually get these batches of rulings, June, right, in June, that we might hear something? I'm not trying to imply 2 weeks from now, but or December. Is there a possibility that because of the, I'm sure the lawyers are going to argue that there is a sense of urgency.
You know what, though? But I could see them. That would be a real Roberts move to not do that, because doing that looks political. Doing that looks like they want to affect the next election. Now, there's a very strong principled argument, which is that if this law is unconstitutional, it sure as hell should affect the next election. But it would be a centrist and, preservation of the institution kind of move, I think, to wait.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I do think something has changed on the Supreme Court. I think Roberts has realized that there are 3 votes that he's not getting on any of the issues, even the issues that he holds most dear: separation of powers. Mm-hmm. Those three justices don't give a shit.
No,
they simply don't care. They know what their job is. They know why they were put on the court, and they're going to do it. We know who
they are. Yeah,
and he'll take the 6 threes. He would have liked to get 7 2s and 8 1s and 9 nothings. He's going to take the wins. So it might be that things are going to change.
I would like to think so, because again, I think it's like you said. If this is blatantly unconstitutional, which, let's be honest, we're not members of the Supreme Court, but we can read and we can think logically. And we can look at this and we say, okay, now wait a minute. If you're going to tell me that it's unconstitutional to have, oh, hell, I'm going to do it. If it's unconstitutional.
Hi, I'm Tom Michaels, and I want to invite you to my new laundromat, Whites Only Laundry. We specialize in only washing in white laundry, so your linens, socks, and undershirts will look fresher than ever. By focusing just on white laundry.
All right, you get the point. If it's unconstitutional to favor a bunch of white people in terms of political power, then it must also be unconstitutional to favor black people when it comes to political power. And if this is something that is obvious, which it seems to me obvious, just like the Supreme Court rulings, I think that largely led up to this, right? We got the thing with Harvard in the last, year or two with, no, you can't do admissions based on race. That's no, you can't do that. Or especially if you're getting federal dollars, right? And that has trickled down or trickled across the plane, I guess is probably a better way to say it, not down, but across to the private sector, the corporate structure out there. No, you can't do race-based hiring. We've seen DEI programs allegedly disappearing, I think, from some companies legitimately. I think from other companies, they're just going to hide it better, like Disney. But the point is that if this is all out there in the ether, and this has been established recently, then, okay, well, then the big 800-pound gorilla in the room has to be voting and congressional districts, things that have direct impact on the lawmaking and the representation in this country under Article 1 of the Constitution, which, it's Article 1 for a reason. It's the most important one. And if we're screwing around with that, then to me that seems like a real problem.
Well, it's a real problem. And as maybe you can even throw up, not throw up, but Sean, if you could throw up Sean's comment on the screen, Sean the artist.
Oh, that's Sean. Yes. Yep. Yes.
No, not that.
John.
No, that not that one. But the one he says that they requested that the parties actually requested expedited.
Oh, the February
ruling.
thing. Yes, I did see this. Oh, there was a couple of people out there mentioned, and thank you, Sean. It was requested as expedited, so the thought is this will come down maybe by year's end. Sean, I've heard year's end. There's a couple other people in the chat that mentioned by February. A few different people mentioned, so that apparently has been floated out there in the ether as well. And that's my point, is that I think this is one of those cases that's going to beg, hey, look, guys, if we're going to do this, we don't want this ruling to come out, and say, oh, okay, well, yep, indeed, this is unconstitutional. And then we have an election 3 months later that the states have no time to prepare and react to something that has just been adjudicated by the Supreme Court as being bogus. And then they have to run an election based on something that has already been declared to be foul. Because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen in Louisiana. So that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like there's no way this case gets stretched out till June of next year. They're going to have to do something, because one way or another, whether this goes in favor of in my opinion, the rule of law and the Constitution, or it goes in favor of, institutionalized DEI bullshit, well, we can argue it once it gets adjudicated, and we can talk about the results, but we need the results, and they can't wait till June to do it. I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, you're right. I
think it kind of creates a nightmare aspect if they would. Hey, it's illegal, but sorry you don't have time to fix it before the next major event. We'll go ahead and
but not
fix
just
it.
illegal, unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional.
So
yeah.
you really, I mean, here's the thing. If going back to what I said before, if Roberts is really concerned about the legitimacy of the institution, well, there are other branches of government that need legitimacy too. And if you're going to rule that, a month before the election, that 20 of the congressional districts that are being voted on are unconstitutional, it doesn't get much more illegitimate than that.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine sending 20 congressmen to go. I mean, how do you swear them in? If at that point it's how do you it's like, oh, I'm glad you got elected. That's great. It's wonderful. You got elected based on something that has been declared outright unconstitutional. So, I mean, honestly, if I'm Mike Johnson, which, by the way, also from Louisiana, which is part of the reason this is going on, I'm sitting there going, I don't think I'm going to swear you in because you were not. We've literally had a Supreme Court that declared your district, your voting district that elected you to get here is outright unconstitutional. So how then do I allow you to be a seated member of Congress? Boy, talk about a fun crisis there.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Yep.
All right, here's a little palate cleanser. Remember when Alyssa Farah on The View a year ago said that, my God, if Donald Trump ever secures peace in the Middle East, I'll wear a MAGA hat? Just as everybody out there on the internet is keeping count, we're on day 3 of Alyssa Farah not fulfilling her promise to wear a MAGA hat. Good thing is that, oops, dang it. I was supposed to go right back to the other one. Here it is, folks. That was really loud in my ears.
That guy does not look like Trump.
I know it's not the best AI. Obviously, this is AI. YouTube. It's a joke. It's a parody.
I'll tell you something funny about AI. It gives everyone perfect teeth.
It does.
And someone did a little AI video from a picture of mine, and it had perfect. I have terrible teeth. I've got a million tiny little teeth, and they're yellow, probably from some antibiotic in the 1960s. And this guy, and this AI version of me, he looked great. He's got these beautiful.
We're going to use that picture from now on. That's it. We're just going to use that picture.
Yeah,
man. All right, I'm going to get into some of these clips. I need 1 minute here real quick. We'll be right back. Hang tight. We'll grab your super chats. And we're going to get into some of these quotes from some of these oral arguments. Remember when the children would gather around the TV to watch Disney Plus? Mom and Dad would watch Hulu. Well, now, all of that's going away. From the company who's brought you so many bad ideas like Disney Star Wars and post-Endgame Marvel, the Walt Disney Company will now bring you a new streaming service. But don't worry, we'll still have all your favorites, and we'll still have great programming even for the modern audience. Coming in 2026, like a long-lost friend on the other end of the telephone line. Who dis? That's right, Disney's new streaming service, because we simply can't hide the billions of dollars of losses on Disney Plus by itself anymore. All righty, let's get into it. There are so many fun things to go through, some of the comments, some of the stuff coming up from No Kings, but some good parody stuff as well. But I'm at the point where I can't get over some of these things. I want to go through some of these clips, and we'll get Ron to react to some of these things. So some of these comments were clipped up, and you heard a couple of seconds of them in the news segments that we played earlier from Fox 8 and WWL-TV, both New Orleans affiliates. Here is one I want to play. Whoops, some of these auto-playing here. This is from Janai Nelson, again, from the NAACP, basically arguing in favor of keeping these congressionally black districts that are clearly racially manipulated.
That's right. And in the state of Louisiana, that analysis was conducted in the Nairn case, and it was clear that regardless of party, white Democrats were not voting for black candidates, whether they were Democrats or not.
Come on, man. Stop making this so easy. This is like, everybody listen. I know you're like, I did not just hear what I thought I heard. You did. I'm going to play it again. This is pure gold. This was actually being argued by the attorney representing the NAACP in the case, oral arguments to the Supreme Court, that this is why we need them, because even the white Democrats.
That's right. And in the state of Louisiana, that analysis was conducted in the Nairn case, and it was clear that regardless of party, white Democrats were not voting for black candidates, whether they were Democrats or not. And we know that there is such a significant chasm between how black and white voters vote in Louisiana that there's no question that even if there is some correlation between race and party, that race is the driving factor.
Holy shit.
Imagine actually saying, we can't win by votes.
We can't win without this bullshit cheating.
Therefore, do it. Therefore, keep it. It's ridiculous.
And Ketanji Brown Jackson agrees with her. We'll get there. We got some clips, but I mean, listen to this last part. That's so. I could not believe this was actually being stated not only out loud by these attorneys, but in actual oral arguments on the record.
Chasm between how black and white voters vote in Louisiana, that there's no question that even if there is some correlation between race and party, that race is the driving factor.
Race is the driving factor for voting. So therefore, we have to keep doing this. She's literally saying that, oh no, this is an issue about race. Absolutely. It is the driving factor, but ignore the Constitution because we need it.
I mean, if I were writing this opinion for the majority, I would feed this right back in. I mean, it's...
When I told y'all earlier in the show that these people, they literally have nowhere else to go, and they are now just outright saying the quiet parts out loud because there is no hiding the bullshit anymore. That right there, what she just said, what Janai Nelson just said, attorney representing the NAACP in front of the Supreme Court, just said, yes, race is the big factor here. It has to be because white people won't vote for black people. Wow. God. Oh, God. Meanwhile, right. somebody explain real quick, Ron. Somebody in the chat. Y'all gonna have to explain people like Byron Dorgan to me then. A black Republican in Florida that's probably going to be the next governor of Florida. And Florida is getting
those people don't count.
Oh,
Obama doesn't count.
Oh, shit. I forgot. Okay. All right.
Can you comment on the Solicitor General's suggestion?
Oh, wait. This is just an extended part of that. I think that was Brett Kavanaugh. Okay. It just, I can't. This is the coup de grace. Or there's so many coup de grace, and I just can't. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, if you haven't seen, I got to back out. I got to say, I think I saved this. God, I hope I saved this. Because I had a bunch of these. Oh, shoot, I lost it. You know, there's that chart, Ron, floating out there that shows, like, the number of words spoken by justices during oral arguments. Yeah. And you've got Ketanji Brown Jackson you've got like all women is by far the biggest number. And then Ketanji Brown Jackson by herself is in second place. And then it's all the men combined. Like Ketanji Brown Jackson runs her yap during oral arguments more than all of the men on the Supreme Court.
Justice Thomas sat on the court for 20 years and said about 5 words before he started in any way participating.
Clarence Thomas has said fewer words in 30 years on the Supreme Court than Ketanji Brown does in one oral argument. He just sits there and listens, and it's one of the most brilliant men that has ever lived. And it just goes to
example of this is something.
Let's just drag it through the mud. Let's go, folks. Here it is.
A kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities.
Physical disabilities, right? They were in a wheelchair. They can't walk upstairs. You know, they can't Okay. All right. Okay. Where are we going with this?
And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system.
Black people are the same thing as disabled people, according to Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
No, she might not be saying that. Not exactly saying that. What she's saying is something very much like that.
There's so much wrong with this. I don't even know where to start. This was like when I listened to this clip, I said, no, there's no way. Somebody AI'd this shit. There's no way. Oh no, it's real. It's real. I don't even know where to begin with this. Because somehow, some kid with ALS in a wheelchair that can't walk, or with Parkinson's, or that has 2 broken knees or something, that can't walk upstairs or access or sit, go to a public restroom the way that most of us can, because there's not a bar there to grab or something to help them out of it. That is somehow the same as this case.
Well, okay, so I mean, look, what she's saying, it's preposterous, but what she's saying is black people are so, this is a ridiculous word that has become nonetheless a word, disadvantaged.
Yep.
Are so disadvantaged that it's like they are cripples. And let's say that, here's the point. Let's say she were right. Let's say she were right, and that's really were the case. There's no constitutional prohibition on treating handicapped people differently from the way you treat fully able people.
Mm-hmm.
But the Constitution does prohibit racial discrimination.
There you go.
So even if her analogy were appropriate, here we're dealing with something that this court has already said doesn't work. You can't use that as a rationale for treating otherwise similarly situated people differently.
Yeah, I mean, before I go into the number of thoughts I had on this, because I tried to unpack this in my brain and tear it apart 7 ways to Sunday, and there's still so much wrong with this just from, and again, as a layperson. But let me do this real quick. Eric Heffelfinger for $10. Why are districts not drawn based on town or city lines? Would there just be too many at that point? Well, the short answer, Eric, and Ron, feel free to chime in on this. Congressional districts are based on, we're capped at 438 in Congress. And the sizes of the district are based on population first and foremost. And that population gets adjusted every 10 years based on the U.S. Census. So, we might have had a House district 50 years ago where each House district had 250,000 people in it. And today, each House district has 500,000 people in it. That's just because of the population shift. And part of the argument lately has been how many illegals are being counted in places like California when it comes to congressional seat appropriation, right? Because, hey, maybe California is counting 20 million people illegally in their census, and instead of having 54 seats, maybe they should only have 40 or something along those lines. I'm making up the numbers, but you get my point. And the point of being that example is that's why they can't always just stick into city or county lines, because there's a population threshold that you've got to reach. The issue is how you devise that population into creating a district, because you can look at something that's supposed to be relatively sensibly shaped, contiguous and whatnot, versus, stringing a line literally over 300 to 400 miles of Louisiana, from East Baton Rouge all the way up to Shreveport, where the district is maybe not but 50 miles wide and 300 miles long, that stretches along a highway because it's a corridor of, in this case, according to the debate, it's a corridor of black people, and they deserve it. It's the craziest thing on earth. So I think that's the bottom line for it as to why it doesn't work out.
Yep.
Tennessee for 5. I think it's safe to say that Miss Cleo was more legitimate than the current Louisiana map. Eric Heffelfinger for 10, saying that government representation has to be race-based is racist. It's assuming that we as humans can't relate to each other, or that our differences are based purely off of skin color. But that's exactly what the other side is arguing here, right? Is that black people can only be represented by other black people, and that's why we need these laws. And it's like, well, the Constitution doesn't work that way. That's the argument from the other side. Mike D, 501, there's a couple of generations of Democrats who believe race-based discrimination is their birthright to stay in power. This is a wake-up call. Sean's out there. He says, my friend Honey Badger mom is being sued for assault after escaping Antifa thugs in Portland a few months ago. She was reporting free speech issue. I don't know the circumstances of the case, but I'm curious, man. Send them along.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing that the civil rights, Harmeet Dillon, my former partner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have to ever stop dropping that name, by the way.
No.
I mean, that's just so awesome.
There you go.
But I think that they intervened. There was another report. Cam, I would think, wasn't it Cam Higby? No. If someone else was arrested in very similar circumstances, and civil rights is getting involved.
There you have it. Marcus for 5, the only thing that progressive socialist Democrats will have left once SCOTUS rules on this will unfortunately be their typical violence. Just saying. That's not a bad thought there, Marcus. You're not wrong. I think at the Supreme Court case, and that may be something that they try to, influence the court with. I hope not, but that there will be riots in the streets again.
Yeah, that's not even a threat anymore. They're riots in the street all the time.
I know that. Yeah, it's like we're gonna get one Saturday with the No Kings. Yeah, whatever. So, but I see where you're going, Marcus. For those of y'all who don't know, Marcus comes from many years of a law enforcement background. So. Hillis for 10, seems like this type of ruling should be a 9-0 decision. There's a lot of things that should probably be 9-0, but ain't never going to happen. If any of the justices thinks ruling against this and to discriminate because of racial bias, then those justices are going to find out. There's going to be at least 3. You're going to get Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji. It's good. Those 3 are going to rule to keep the race-based districts in violation of the Constitution. Yeah, that's the whole reason they were installed on that court. They weren't there to adjudicate based on the rule of law per se. They were there to make sure that hard left progressive Marxist interests were going to be foisted upon the court come hell or high water. And I've talked about this before. Like I remember when Sotomayor talking about in her confirmation hearings, I'll never forget, talking about, well, maybe, the court needs to look towards international law to decide some of its, I'm paraphrasing, is basically what she said. I was like, oh, well, God almighty.
That was Justice Breyer's fetish as well.
Yep. Stephen Breyer. Yep. Hillis Mallory for 5. Hey, Janie, you know Obama won, and we have white votes for the presidential nod, and had to have white votes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but white people, white Democrats, and white independents and white Republicans never going to vote for a black guy, except for all the black guys they voted for. There have been a number of prominent black conservatives elected to Congress from deeply white Republican districts. So the idea that this is, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of these things were brought up in the oral arguments here, I would imagine. Won't go the same for $2. No wonder the Dems need to import their votes. Yes. And Marcus for 10. Wait, so you're saying that white Democrats won't vote for a black Democrat, but white Republicans will vote for a qualified black Republican? And that lady says, I'm racist? Wear a white sheet much, for fuck's sake. Yeah. Okay. So this was my issue, and we'll get back to the super chats here in just a bit. I just wanted to catch it from a time standpoint. Let me play this a little, this clip again, because it's so important, and then I'm going to kind of give some thoughts on it.
Right? They're disabled. In fact, a kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible.
Not if readily possible.
I guess
that's not if readily possible.
Mm-hmm.
If reasonable, if accommodation can reasonably be made. You might say to me, Ron, that's the same thing as readily possible. No, it's not. It's a specific, those words, reasonable accommodations, are baked into the statute. You're a Supreme Court justice. You have to use the language of the statute. Come on, man.
Yeah, well, she uses her own stuff.
Understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system.
This is complete and utter bullshit. And let me go from the beginning of this. All right. So let's go back to her choice of comparison here, which is the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay. And the ideas behind it. The ideas behind it was so that, as I mentioned earlier, somebody in a wheelchair could physically be able to access and have the opportunity to enjoy their pursuit of happiness at going to somebody's shop or store or this or whatever. Largely pretty innocuous stuff. Now, it did have some serious financial impacts on many businesses because, hey, they had to turn around and they had to spend money to install a wheelchair ramp or put the safety bars in the bathrooms or all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing, is that the people that would then enjoy these businesses that to that point heretofore they were unable to because of physical limitation, they were simply given the same opportunity as everybody else. There was no guarantee of results. There was no equity of outcome, right? Right?
Oh,
they still had to go.
Okay.
Well,
Can't you respond here that this is now the opportunity to elect? Like, they're not, even though in fact they're really giving these seats to these people, but there's still an election. You still have to win an election.
You still have to win an election, but the idea behind engineering these
but you
seats
will.
is to all is to all but guarantee a certain outcome, right? And that's the difference. This is why this comparison to the ACA doesn't work. You know what? And this is my point. There is no disadvantage to blacks or Hispanics or anybody else. If you are here legally, you are a citizen, and if you have decided to take it upon yourself to do your duty as a lawful citizen of the United States and go ahead and get yourself and maintain your registration to vote, You have the equal access, every man, every woman, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, otherwise, who was legally registered to vote has the exact same opportunity to cast their ballot as anybody else. And we now, in today's society, especially since 2020, we've gone overboard, in my opinion, making it so ridiculously, retardedly easy to cast a ballot. There is no disadvantage to black folks to cast a ballot. They have the exact same opportunity as everybody else.
Oh, not so fast. I think you seem to have forgotten. Black folk don't even know how to find a picture ID.
Oh, I forgot.
That's a big disadvantage, okay?
The incredibly racist issue of having to provide a photographic ID, a legitimate, in many cases, state-issued photo ID to prove who you are so that they can match you to a voter registration so that you can be verified to vote once, provided, of course, you're still alive. But yes, I mean, this is the point. The whole idea, and this is what Ketanji Brown Jackson is kind of dancing herself into here, is that, and this is why this comparison is so bad, not just from the hilarity of it, that she's literally just compared blacks voting to basically people in wheelchairs having to have a special act to give them access. The problem is the comparison from that perspective, from the logical perspective, is just ridiculous because there is no issue with access. It's like saying, well, we would have passed the Americans with Disabilities Act to guarantee that they get the same outcome as people who don't have disabilities, right? No, they can still have access. We're going to make sure that they can get into a building. We're going to make sure that they have access to, physical access to get into a school or a business. But once they get there, that doesn't guarantee that they're going to score the highest grades or they're going to be able to participate on the regular boys basketball team from a wheelchair or something like that. Again,
right.
It's the engineering, the constant Democrat refrain that they want to and have to try to engineer not equal opportunity, but try to engineer the same outcomes for everybody. This is where the equity portion of DEI comes into play. And this is why it's always such a mess, is that you cannot engineer the same outcome for everybody, but you can give everybody the same opportunity. That's the basis, as far as I've always known it here in America. Right, is everybody has equal opportunity, okay? Everybody's vote counts just the same. My vote counts the same as Ron's, the same as Ketanji Brown Jackson's vote when she goes into the polls, or at least it's supposed to. So, again, I find this argument to be really, really silly from that perspective. But she had a few more fun ones out there, and this is, some of the no, that's the same one. It's just the poll quote from it. I got to go down here. Now, this was another piece here. And this is from Eric Daughtry, who's from Florida. DEI Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is losing it because she knows the race-based VRA congressional districts are about to be abolished. She is yelling at the council and is clueless as to how the VRA process even works in Louisiana. So I'm going to play the clip here. And again, this is back to Benjamin Aguinaga. I'm good with French, but not Spanish. Benjamin Aguinaga, who is the Solicitor General here from the state of Louisiana, arguing in favor of abolishing these race-based districts.
I don't understand why your answer to Justice Kagan's question about, is this a compelling state interest, is no. The answer is obviously yes, that you have an interest in remedying
in discrimination.
Right, exactly. And that's thank you for bringing that up, Ron. I was going to say, just a point of clarification, what she's talking about is, does the state have an interest in, and the subtext is, race-based congressional districting? And Benjamin Aguinaga, Solicitor General for Louisiana, is saying, no, there's no interest in the state to have race-based congressional districts. And Jackson is saying, well, the obvious answer is actually yes.
I don't understand why your answer to Justice Kagan's question about, is this a compelling state interest, is no. The answer is obviously yes, that you have an interest in remedying the effects of racial discrimination that we identify using this tool. Whether you go too far in your remedy is another issue, right?
Your Honor, I think step zero in all of these cases, it was certainly step zero in the Robinson litigation, is the plaintiffs came in and said, we want another majority black district.
I thought they came in and said, we are not receiving equal electoral opportunity because our votes are being diluted.
No.
Yeah, I know. Wait. Did you hear what she said there, Ron?
Right.
Did you hear?
Yeah, exactly.
You hear her answer to that? It's like, wait, the plaintiffs came in and they said, we deserve.
Let's start with the rationale and work our way backward.
Right, exactly. Y'all listen to this in the audience again, right? Well, the plaintiffs came in and they said, we want or we deserve under this law another black congressional district in Louisiana. Okay?
Too far in your remedy is another issue, right?
Your Honor, I think step zero in all of these cases, it was certainly step zero in the Robinson litigation, is the plaintiffs came in and said, we want another majority black district.
I thought they came in and said, we are not receiving equal electoral opportunity because our votes are being diluted.
We're mincing words here because apparently it's the same thing that Benjamin Aguinaga is saying the plaintiffs are claiming. They're saying they came in and they said, we want a second congressional district. And Ketanji's like, no, I thought they came in and they said, we're not being represented enough because our votes are being diluted. Ergo, they want a second fucking congressional district, Ketanji. That's it.
It's really something.
Oh, Lord.
Which is the same way of saying we deserve a second.
No, it's not, because again.
He's trying to, he even says it. I forgot about it. He actually does respond to her saying, we're saying the same thing, Your Honor. And then she immediately retorts with, no, it isn't.
No. It's not. This is really important. It's not the same thing. We're really talking about how it really went down.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, she, in her mythology, the mythology is, it's really just kind of works out that blacks get a second district. The real problem here is that blacks were deprived of electoral opportunities. And what he's saying is, empirically speaking, the politics of what happened in the Louisiana House was, or the Louisiana legislature was, it's time for another black district. That's actually how it happened. Yep. That's how I'm hearing it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Votes are being diluted.
Which is the same way of saying we want another Robinson litigation. Certainly step zero in the Robinson litigation is the plaintiffs came in and said, we want another majority black district.
I thought they came in and said, we are not receiving equal electoral opportunity because our votes are being diluted.
Which is the same way of saying we deserve a second.
No, it's not, because again, just trust me on this, the second electoral.
Trust me, bro.
Or second district is a remedy that one could offer for a problem that we've identified. And the whole Robinson litigation was about identifying the problem. Is this really happening? In many Section 2 cases, the court says, you're wrong, you're fine. There is not an electoral opportunity being denied to you, go away. In this case, the court said, I see. I'm looking at the factors. I appreciate what you're saying. You've proven that we have this problem. And so the next question is, how do we go about remedying it?
Okay. Ron, thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I think it's just she's doubling down. She knows how it happened. It happened in the Never Never Land of, darn, it's funny how it works out. Mm-hmm. We're trying to figure out why there isn't a second black district here. And we thought it was because, you might have thought it was because we count the number of votes and the person who wins the most votes gets to, but no, it's not that at all. It's that electoral deny opportunity thing.
Yeah.
And he's saying, no, actually that's not how it happened here. Okay.
Well, and she goes in the end and she starts saying how, if there's an issue or not, and deciding whether or not there's an issue and if the remedy is going to be to add a second congressional black district. And what my layperson's read when I hear her. Again, we already know she's made up her mind. We already know which way she's voting on this issue. We don't even have to question it. But the idea is that, as a justice, it seems like she's already starting from the standpoint of there's nothing wrong with the law, the statute in this case.
Absolutely. That's right. 100%.
That's totally fine, right? She's already moved on to whether or not the statute that in her mind is right dictates that there be another district in Louisiana. Versus...
That's just a wacky coincidence.
It's a very wacky coincidence. As opposed to what Benjamin Aguinawa is trying to argue here on behalf of the state of Louisiana as Solicitor General is to say that, no, Your Honor, your premise to begin with is wrong. The underlying statute runs afoul of the Constitution, and there shouldn't be any engineered white districts, black districts, Hispanic districts.
So
period.
So you're against handicapped people, aren't you?
Yes. Of course, because that's what you have to be, right? Oh,
pretty much.
God.
That's how it comes out.
You don't want kids to eat school lunches where you want kids to starve. Remember that one, Ron? Remember that one?
Exactly. It's
the
same
federal school lunch. It's the same thing.
Game.
You want children to starve. You want to push old people off a cliff, Ron. Remember they made a TV commercial with that one?
In their wheelchair, yes.
In the wheelchair, yeah. It was George Bush, wasn't it? Pushing the old person off the side of a cliff in a wheelchair.
Good
Democrats.
times.
It's like, good Lord. I miss those days compared to with the crazy shit that we have today. Good God. So anyway, that was when I think there was one more, or that might have been it. Nope, that might have been it. That might have been it. That was it. I had those two pieces. The other one was a duplicate. But I want to show people, just kind of put this in perspective. Benny Johnson had put this up yesterday, and this is basically correct, at least so far as I can tell from Louisiana for sure. And he's right. He's totally right. Having grown up here my entire life, the South is insanely rigged by Democrats to steal Republican seats in red states that vote for Trump by 40 points. And that 40 points is not an exaggeration. Now, Florida wasn't quite 40 points, but I can tell you right now, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, it's 40 points, okay? And you look here, without Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, Republicans could eliminate upward of a dozen Democrat-held districts across just the South. Just these few states. You look here. This is the proposed. So right now there's the proposal, this second blue line, if you can see my cursor right here that's swirling around. I know it's kind of tough to see. Up in that northwest quadrant, that's Shreveport. We also refer to that as Texas because they're not really Louisiana people. But Shreveport up here, that blue starts up there. It runs all the way down here to the southeast portion, central southeast Louisiana, basically just touching into East Baton Rouge Parish, scooping out a little bit of East Baton Rouge Parish. And then the other district is District 1 that is currently a little bit more tightened up to New Orleans than what you see here. So the point is, and you see like there's that little piece, you can barely see it. I wish there was a way to blow that up. But you can barely see there's under, Lake Pontchartrain right here where my cursor is swirling. There is that little teeny sliver of red right there. That little teeny weeny sliver of red that is literally sandwiched around geographically Lake Pontchartrain and then Orleans Parish to the east and then back up around towards Baton Rouge to the west. That little teeny tiny sliver of red is what gets lumped in up here with all this big red up here in the Florida parishes because that's Steve Scalise's district. And they're not going to peel that apart that much. So anyway, the whole point of this is that this is a really ridiculously gerrymandered map. That would go away. Now, extrapolate this out to the rest of the country, and this is where this is 12 seats alone right here between Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. There's probably another 10 to 12 districts elsewhere in the country that would fall under this. Because, again, we talked about other states earlier like Indiana that are looking at things like, hey, we don't got to gerrymander this stupid stuff anymore. I mean, Indiana's a pretty deep red state. And people are quick to point out for the Democrats that are arguing, hey, 40% of the voters, even in places like many New England states, 40% of the voters up there are Republicans. And they have zero representation in Congress. Not one damn seat.
Right.
Up there in many of those states. 40% of the voters. Not one damn congressional seat in many New England states. So if we want to play this game, we'll play this game, y'all. We'll play this game. And look, nothing up there. I mean, that's being engineered just based on political party, which you could be hard pressed to find an argument in the Constitution about engineering for political party, running afoul of anything. But skin color? No, you can't do that. That's definitive. I think that's been well established, Ron, has it not?
Well, it is now.
It is.
It is now.
Seems to be. All right. Well, I'm going to do more of this on Saturday with the No Kings protest, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of this because it's going to be funny. Ron, are you looking forward to Saturday? We got the government shutdown going on right now. You got any thoughts on that? I've got a few, but I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Maybe I missed something. I'm always looking forward to Saturday. It's Shabbos.
Well, you got the No Kings protest, and a lot of this is now being.
I don't understand. Again, I don't understand what makes this protest different from any other weirdos on parade protest. I mean, it's not. It doesn't move the needle at all. It's just performative, and it gives content to media outlets that want to overstate the existence of, resistance or whatever you want. It's meaningless. It means nothing to me, Ron Coleman, at least.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I find it interesting. I think from a cultural standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is the right clip, but, I didn't get a chance to address this the last couple of weeks. I was traveling. We've only had, one Renegade Nation show. That's why I wanted to do this tonight. Check this out, right? Because we heard this famous clip of Jimmy Kimmel from like a week ago cracking jokes about there's no such thing as Antifa.
Antifa is just short for anti-fascist. It's not a club you can join. There are no membership dues, but they have matching signs. Okay, well, I guess we better round up these domestic terrorists, too. They look pretty matching to me. Listen. I'm going to tell you this. Spread it around. There's no chaos in Portland. None. There is no chaos in Chicago. There was no chaos in Los Angeles. They're pretending there's chaos as a pretense for a military takeover. But I'm open-minded. If there is chaos in these cities Trump calls hellholes, let's see it and decide if something needs to be done about it.
I think we've been seeing quite a bit of it before and after Jimmy Kimmel said this.
Yeah,
and we're probably going to see more of it on Saturday.
He's a terrible person. What a truly terrible person.
And, for all the ratings he shot up with the night he came back, talking about 6.3 million, he went right back down to his bottom of the gutter ratings within 3 days. Just as we predicted would be the case.
And now they have to they got to eat it. Like, where do they go now?
I'm not sure. And this is the kind of thing, that and there's a lot of folks out there, Ron, that are saying that, well, Democrats, I think, have kind of let the cat out of the bag in some form or fashion, that they basically have to keep this government shutdown going through at least Saturday for this big, massive, nationally organized No Kings protest. But again, remember, Antifa isn't real. It doesn't really exist. There's no real club. Yet, Antifa and the Democrats keep managing to have these massively multi-tens of millions of dollars nationally organized national protests. I think they're touting now there's going to be 2,000 different, registered protests for
it's
No Kings
meaningless.
Day.
Valliant,
Yeah.
What I'm telling you, you talk about cultural moments. It's a complete cliche at this point. It's the same misshapen, bizarre, antisocial, smelly. Not only is it the same type of people. In many cases, it's literally the same people.
Yes. The rented ranters, as Rush used to call them. Yeah. The same wackos every time and time again. But I mean, we've seen so many of these things, but a lot of this, like I said, it's centered around kind of keeping this so they can have a national news story, so the Democrats can show on Saturday, look at all the people that we engineered to show up. Look at all the people that we got to show up in 50 different cities in America. These are all people angry at Republicans for closing the government down. Even though they can't get 5 Democrats to break ranks to bust the filibuster in the Senate and pass the budget bill, right? That's where it's been hung up, is in the Senate. And the Republicans have 55 votes. They say, well, the Republicans have to pass this. Like, well, they don't have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. So that's typically problematic. But my point with this is, the argument, Ron, has been a lot about people talking about how the Democrats are suggesting the Republicans are driving up healthcare costs. They want Americans to suffer. Bernie Sanders is out there talking about who can afford $50,000 a year for health insurance. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, you voted for that in 2010. I mean, it's and again, this is I think I have a clip of it. And this kind of one, here it is right here. They're using the age-old health insurance argument here because one of the things the Republicans are trying to, pull out is to revisit these massive subsidies that were put in place under the Unaffordable Care Act, or also known as Obamacare, from 2010. And as somebody who was in this industry for 20 some odd years, I know a thing or two about what went down in 2010 because we were all watching it like a hawk. We told everybody it was gonna explode health insurance premiums. Sure enough, it did.
Listen, I'm gonna really be a pest here. I know we only have a few more minutes. You want to get another clip in. Mm-hmm. I don't think these arguments matter anymore, Valliant. It is entirely performative. It is for the base. It's for the fundraising. But no one's listening anymore. Everyone knows now who is on what side and what the real issues are. That's why the Democrats are failing so spectacularly on the shutdown. It's not working the way it historically has.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's why I wanted to play this clip, because I think you hit the nail on the head. They are pulling out the same tired-ass old tricks over and over and over again. And the audience that they are reaching with these arguments, I think, are becoming perpetually smaller and smaller and smaller by the year.
Middle-class families will be paying $50,000 a year for health care. Anyone think that's sane? It's not. Who can afford?
I'd love to know where he came up with that number. It's bad, but it's not that bad. I'd really love to know where he... And again, health insurance producer for over 20 years. One of the many things that I do in my financial planning practice. I can tell you right now those numbers are silly, but...
That. Republicans are catching on. They're playing a losing hand. They are going to come to the table finally and address the healthcare crisis that they've created.
They created.
That they created. Yeah.
What
Bernie
a dishonest scumbag.
I know. He's a lying piece of shit. I'll just call it like it is. This is the guy, along with all of his friends, exclusively in 2010, because I don't remember a single Republican that crossed over. They passed Obamacare by themselves. Remember, we have to pass the bill in 48 hours, 3,000 pages. We have to pass the bill so you can find out what's in it. Nancy Pelosi, 2010. And we told everybody, your premiums are going to explode. I can tell you right now that prior to Obamacare, I had personally written policies on 27-year-olds that were $75 a month for basically what amounted to a major medical plan. Had something like a $3,000 deductible on it. You know why? Because a 27-year-old doesn't need a cough and sniffle plan, because 27-year-olds tend to be healthy and not have medical issues, okay? They just need something to where if the roof caves in, and they have something major, $75 a month. You know what that same policy was, Ron? 2 years later after the ACA took effect? The same damn policy? Take a guess.
How many years?
2 years later.
Three times the price.
Just about. It was about $250 to $300 for the same damn policy. Democrats did that, but the lie, and this is where Bernie Sanders, and I'm putting this out there for everybody in the audience to understand this, because a lot of people have forgotten. The lie going on right now that the Democrats are spewing because they think everybody that hears them are as stupid as a lot of their voter base is, that just eat it up like sycophants. The lie is that they jacked the premiums up to these ridiculous levels. And the lie during the Obamacare bill passage was that your rates will go down. They didn't. They tripled. They quadrupled. My policy went from under $600 a month for me, my wife, and at the time, 2 kids. Renegade Jr. was born about a year after the passage of the bill. It went from $575 a month, and by the time that Humana decided to piece out of Louisiana, like most of them did everywhere else, on the individual policy side, the replacement policy with the same exact parameters, $2,360 a month. And guess what? Valliant Renegade didn't qualify for the welfare check. I didn't get and that was the trick. The trick was, oh yeah, you know what? You were paying $75 a month before. Well, now you're going to only be paying $70 a month. Your premium is now $250, but we're going to send you a welfare check to cover the portion of your premium to make it look like it's cheaper. That is, of course, provided that you qualify for the welfare check. And make no mistake, that's what it boils. It's a means-tested federal welfare benefit. It's the same as Section 8. It's the same as food stamps, EBT. It's the same as Medicaid. When they send you that premium subsidy, it is based on income. It is a federal welfare benefit, and that's what Obamacare effectively turned it into. There was also a massive expansion of Medicaid. But this idea that Bernie Sanders, and it's not just him, it's Chuck Schumer and everybody else. This is just the clip I'm using as kind of a, an example for everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
It's this idea that Republicans are raising your premium. Pardon my French, but Bernie, fuck you. I know you're lying. I've been in this business way too long. I've actually worked a real job in my life, unlike you, Senator Sanders, who's never worked a real job a day in your life. And yet you have 3 houses and want to lecture people like me about paying fair shares and shit like that. But, the reason that the premiums are as ridiculous as they are and are completely untenable for most people. And by the way, guess who are the people on the exchanges more often than not? They're independent small business owners like me that can't go out and buy a group.
Right.
I
have
lots of
me and you.
Yeah. The irony is, Ron, I manage a number of group Blue Cross policies for clients. I can't get myself one, and I'm a rep because I don't meet the criteria, right?
Yep.
Because my business partner, his wife works in the medical industry, so they have a great group coverage, so he stays with that, and our other employees in the office are on their spouse's plan, so I'm like, oh, I got to get my own. And the thing is that we're the ones that suffer, and guess what? I couldn't get a dime of subsidy, right? I'm the one that actually has to eat the premium. But the problem is what they're complaining about now is that the welfare check is disappearing, and here's the key. People are actually seeing what the real premiums are. They're actually now seeing what the real cost of that health insurance is, because the welfare that was taking place behind the scenes has evaporated. And this is what has the Democrats a little panicked now. The Republicans they had opportunities to repeal the ACA and they didn't do it. Now maybe this forces the issue again from another perspective. But again, this is one of the big sticking points with this government shutdown. And this is what's going to drive a lot of what we will see Saturday. And I agree with you, Ron. I don't think that it has a huge impact, on the broad scope of culture, because most people have already made up their minds one way or the other. But this is an over-amplified Democrat base, which it's been over-amplified for decades. We all know that. They appear to be, or they're made out to be, much bigger than they really are. But they're going to be out there screaming and shouting and riding naked through the streets in Portland again on Saturday. Oh, my God. I can't. Oh, God, it was so bad. Like I said, I can't even play the clips that I had because I couldn't believe when I was watching them. I'd seen them before, but I can't even play it on YouTube because I'll get in trouble. But like I said, just imagine blue-haired, 300-pound land whales running around on scooters. And I'm not exaggerating, completely naked. Like I said,
I saw that. It was traumatic.
Yeah. Again, I never knew a pair of breasts could hang that low. And I'll put it this way: if I had to make it safe for YouTube, we'd have to engage blurs and black bars. Unfortunately, a lot of them would be down around the area of the feet.
All right.
So I had to get that one in. Oh, my God. Anyway, all right, let's grab some of these super chats. Wind it down here, folks. Thank you for hanging out. Make sure that you're subscribed to Ron Coleman and myself on YouTube here, Twitter, or X as well. And we're going to grab some super chats. So if you guys have any comments you want to make, now's the time to get them in because we're going to roll through these. Wonko the Sane, good to see you, for $5. Every other argument could be put aside. This woman's position makes her words a lie. Talking about Ketanji Brown, I'm sure. Staccato for $10. And big thanks again to Staccato. I didn't do this on this channel yet. It's in the other room. Sorry. Ron, if you know of the Staccato Fund. We've talked about that on the show before. Like, not this one in particular, but the Valliant Renegade channel. So Staccato has been...
I think so.
Yeah, Staccato has been sending me super chats for a year, specifically because he wanted me to go buy my own Staccato, which happened last week shortly after my birthday. So we did the unveiling here on the main show earlier this week. I got my new Staccato HD, the P4. It's beautiful. I never thought I would buy a handgun that was that expensive. But, thanks to Staccato and the other folks in the chat, that is a fine, fine weapon. So thank you again, Staccato. He's already started the Staccato Optics Fund, he said, because he wants me to get a red dot for the top of it. I'm not really good with red dots yet. I need more. I'm still an iron sights guy, but I've tried with it. The only one I have with a red dot is my Canic. See, Staccato? The Canic has a red dot on it, but I haven't... Not as good with that yet. I can take that red dot off, and I'm great with the iron sights on it. But thank you, buddy. He says, when does Ketanji not ask a question where she states, I don't understand? She's an absolute embarrassment to the Supreme Court institution. There's probably a lot of people that feel that way.
Yep.
Easy Money Rebel for $5. What song is the Alyssa AI meme from? I can't remember. The Alyssa AI meme. Dude, I don't know. Is that something I played earlier? I don't know. Hillis Mallory for $5. Chat, help him out with that one. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Did you say they are not voting or that their vote is somehow different with this issue? What, huh? That's just it. This idea that black voters are inherently disadvantaged because of what? Their vote counts the same as a white person's or an Asian person's or a Hispanic person's
right.
vote.
She considers being deprived of tokenism.
Right. That's it.
At disadvantage.
Right. We basically what Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act amounts to is it's affirmative action for congressional seats. Is what it is.
And that's why it can't survive this Supreme Court. It can't.
That's it. The Supreme Court has already made it abundantly clear that affirmative action is a no-no. It runs afoul of constitutional protections. So if affirmative action in general is a no-no and Harvard can't do it And certainly there'll probably be another case in the not too distant future that will cement that into the private sector as well. Then surely we should not be implementing affirmative action at the most fundamental, precious, rights that we have as American citizens in voting for representation, for God's sake.
You got it.
Tennessee Tornado for 10. Why should special concessions be made to a group that has relatively low voter turnout? Racial districts would be irrelevant if they would just show up to vote no matter what district. Or I think you mean would be relevant. Or, oh, no, I see what you're saying. Would be irrelevant if the voter base that they're intended to help would just show up to vote anyway, no matter what. Yes. No, you have a great point there. Great point there, Tennessee. Absolutely. And you're right. Look, we see it when we have special elections in Louisiana, or we call them sneaky Saturdays sometimes. I mean, there is a massive difference between, the voter turnout. You can almost set your watch by it. The voter turnout in places like Orleans Parish or East Baton Rouge, especially in certain precincts that are very heavily, we're almost nearly 100% black. The voter turnout is usually in the mid-teens, if that. Whereas if you go to suburban areas that are predominantly white, even on those lesser-known same election days, the turnout is even in the little tiny elections are in the 30s, the low 30s. I mean, it's a significant difference. Hillis Mallory for 5. If this Supreme Court decision comes out, do you think that it will go towards the formation of a third party? I don't know. No, I don't think it would.
Never.
Unless there's
never,
something
not
specific, Hillis. Yeah. Marcus Quintus for 5. Will there be strategically placed pallets of building bricks and pavers at the No Kings protest? Just curious. I will put in a call to George Soros' secretary and we'll find out. I wouldn't put it past him, Marcus, because they've done it before.
But I think we're living in a different world.
I'm with you in large part, Ron, but I part of me wonders. I mean, look, some of these people are really crazy, and they want to create an instance where they will get into a violent clash with police of their own engineering.
Oh,
granted.
yeah. No. They are prepared to sacrifice one or more of those paid protesters to get them killed. They did that in Chicago. That woman got shot. They so desperately want a Kent State moment here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they definitely do. That's what I'm saying. Law enforcement is going to be on pins and needles Saturday. We're going to try to cover some of it. I'll probably do something later in the afternoon or in the evening, because by then we'll probably have a lot of news. We'll have a lot of clips by then. I'm sure Jeremy is going to sit here all day Saturday on CobraCast, covering it wall to wall, because Jeremy has nothing better to do with his life. But of course, like we say, when we do the show in the evening, come here, because we are slightly less gay than Jeremy Grace. This is
Can you say that?
Yes, I can say that. By the way, let me say this before we kind of wrap it up. We got a couple of super chats left. I don't want to forget. Everybody out there in the Renegade Nation, all the Valliant Renegade community, make sure, if you guys are fans of the 199, if you guys are part of the 199 over there on CobraCast and Geeks and Gamers, make sure that you're watching Friday Night Tights tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central, 4 Eastern. Our boy Jeremy, again, I am less gay than Jeremy, only slightly less gay than Jeremy. Jeremy will be having a big announcement tomorrow on Friday Night Tights, and can't wait for you guys to hear it. In fact, if you are a member of Geeks and Gamers on Locals, you probably have already seen the big news drop. So if you're not, you can head on over there to Locals. It's behind the membership paywall. But if you are a member on Locals, make sure you go check out Geeks and Gamers on Locals. Got some big news coming up, and the big drop is going to be tomorrow. There's a lot of last-minute things going on right now to get everything ready. You've probably been seeing some jokes online. People are wondering, has Valiant Renegade really fired Jonas J. Campbell? Yeah, screw that guy. We'll see y'all tomorrow on that one.
Gosh.
Stay tuned. Oh, I just baiting the audience. What is going on? Sean out there for $2 being raised reform. Ron, can you protest on Sabbath?
Depends on what you call protest.
I got to let you handle that because I have no idea. Usually when
so
Ron, yeah,
it depends.
It depends. Like Ron goes in Sabbath mode. I'm like, oh, damn, it's Friday at 4:00. Ron won't see this text.
I'm gonna answer a question with a question. What do you mean by protest?
Archer Merchant for $20. Objectively, something I noticed in my time is a lot of these protests are also funded a bit through NGOs. Yep, union funds, etc., where they're action funds, political funds, or speaker fees, etc. Then they try to sell merch. Oh, the big organized, the No Kings thing. Yeah, again, the organization that's not an organization, according to Jimmy Kimmel and everybody else, that Antifa doesn't really exist, except they made a standardized flag. They're organized. They have tons of websites. They seem to coordinate all their protests, and they're doing their biggest one ever on Saturday this week. But they're not real. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Archer. Thank you for the $20, my man. We appreciate you. Archer for $5, I'm always interested how no one ever talks about the negatives for the care as well. Like full-time becoming 30 hours instead of allowing for cuts. Oh, yeah, talking about how companies had to adjust to the ACA by suddenly slashing employees' available time to work so they could fall under the threshold of the ACA. I knew many people this affected. Many people this affected, especially in like basic service industry. There was a lot of, in fact, people that were working older, they weren't quite available to, they weren't old enough for Medicare yet, for example. I can give you a couple of examples of people that were working at local movie theaters who were in their late 50s and early 60s, trying to make some extra dollars to take care of, they didn't have a lot of high skill and didn't have a lot of money in life. They'd work extra times. They'd been at the theater, like a movie theater, for years. And the guy who was managing it, much younger, who was a client of mine, managing one of these big movie theaters, and he said, I hated it, but we were forced from corporate. I always tried to put this guy on as many work hours as I could, especially on the weekends. But now we're forced to, I had to tell him, I can't put you on more than 25 hours a week because of the ACA. Yeah, that was right and left. That happened everywhere. Everywhere that happened. It's just like when the federal government forces a hike in the minimum wage. What do you think the response is going to be? More iPads at your fast food restaurant instead of people. And positions are going to get terminated.
Every single time.
Every time. It's an economic fact. Milton Friedman was a really smart guy. One of his most famous lines, and that's what's going on. I'll put it this way to kind of close with this thought on the government shutdown. Milton Friedman, I think one of the most. You can go look this up on YouTube. Watch this clip of him, and he talked about the Democrats and Republicans and the political back and forth. And people would always ask about, why don't Republicans do this and compromise and that? And, they go to the House and said they could compromise. And Milton Friedman's answer was very simple. He said, how do you compromise between food and poison? There's no answer. It's like, hey, I would like you to drink this glass of milk. Well, I would like you to drink this glass of cyanide. Well, we should compromise together. No. Take 90% milk and 10% cyanide. That's a compromise. No, it's still poison. I'm still going to die. How do you do this? Marcus, they are more than willing to martyr someone for the cause, talking about the protesters. Let's pray to God not. I hope. I agree. Unfortunately, I think they'd be thrilled with the idea. But I hope they don't do it. Starch Manning for $5. This is going to be the largest protest in American history, and it's warranted. Don't act like fascists, and you won't get called fascists. Okay. Who? Okay. Republicans are fascist in your mind, or acting like fascists?
It's up to
Again,
him who's acting like a fascist. Strangely enough, he decides who acts like a fascist.
That's it. Okay, gotcha. All right. Well,
I don't care by the way, I for one don't care if anyone calls me a fascist. I mean, it was so past that. It's like being called a racist.
Yeah.
If you haven't been called a racist by now, you ain't even trying.
No, I agree with you. Hillis Mallory for 2. Oh, no, you ducking didn't. Yeah, I fired Jonas. Fired him.
Yeah, about time.
Fired him. Yeah, see, even Ron knows.
Yeah,
all right, stay tuned. You'll see some news tomorrow. Everybody out there in the audience is so damn confused right now. People are sliding into Jonas's DMs. What's going on? All right, let's get on out of here. Ron Coleman, you got anything coming up you want to talk about?
I'm just trying to get back up to my regular pace. What with the crazy couple of weeks that I've had. So no, nothing special coming up. Just usual. Every day coming in and seeking excellence.
Yes, indeed. I'm with you on that one. I'm trying to get back in the rhythm. All right, Ron, thank you for being here. Make sure you check out Ron Coleman if our mods out there can throw the link in the chat. Absolutely. And hopefully we'll be back here, God willing, next Thursday and do this again. I think this will be fun. All right, folks out there, good to see you. Peace out. Make sure you're subbed. Hit the like. Do all that good stuff. We'll catch you.